Hey folks, Jamie here. Today I'm just going to have a real genuine video. I'm going to try to ditch my so-called professional YouTube persona and just tell you a super personal story about me and how I went from basically financial destruction to becoming pretty close to financial independence in about 10 years. Now, that's not a small accomplishment, and I did it in a way that worked for me. So I want to walk through the story and then tell you kind of the key things I did along the way that helped me get to where I'm at today, which is starting to figure out how to slip the golden handcuffs and get out of tech and start taking what I've accomplished and retire. So let's get into it. First of all, I'm 54, so retiring around my age is a pretty good accomplishment. A lot of Americans have not figured that out. And considering I went through a pretty bad financial patch and really wasn't back on track into maybe my mid 40s, to get to where I'm at today is pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. So kind of here's what happened. So go way back when. I've got no excuse. I have no reason to say I had any disadvantages. I had a really great family growing up. Parents were married 62 years. My dad worked at IBM, so we were always upper middle class. We didn't suffer in any way, shape, or form. I went to college like you're supposed to, and I got out of college, but I had a degree that was kind of hard to monetize. I just got a degree in art because that's the only thing I was good at. And then I went into graphic design. So I did that for quite a while, never lived anything beyond a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, got married at about 30, and everything seemed kind of normal-ish. Although I didn't have a brain at the time to understand how to start saving aggressively for my future self. I knew absolutely nothing about investing, nothing about financial health. I just worked, and I had a few $1,000 in the bank. I'm like, oh, cool, let's go spend it. Very, very stupid, and I'm calling my younger self that stupid so I can offend myself all I want thinking. So that really bit me in the butt around 2008. So my ex-wife, poor thing, I kind of ruined her life a little bit. I convinced her that we should buy our first house right when the housing market was going up to the moon, because everybody, all of our friends that were about our age that we hung out with, were bragging about how much money they made on their houses. They had new cars, they were taking vacations, they were getting home equity loans for $100,000, even more than $100,000. And when you're young and you're like 30, that's like a fortune. $100,000? You kidding me? So we had to get on the bandwagon with everyone else in America, and we took a creative loan for our very first house, and everything seemed okay. But to make it even worse, I listened to these so-called experts, entrepreneurial gurus saying, work for home, work for yourself, be an entrepreneur. Working for the man sucks. And I drank the Kool-Aid, and I decided, here's my genius plan. Let's buy a house. We're going to make a fortune on our house in the first 2 years, like everyone else we know has done. Then I can finally quit this job that I despise with a boss that I absolutely hated, and I can start my own sort of graphic design consultancy type of business where I do some apparel design along the way. That seemed to be a solid plan at the time, except the fact that not only did our house not go up in value, it plummeted around 2008. So we spent, if I recall, about $325,000 on this house, $325,000 on this house. On paper, it went all the way down to, I think, 90. I mean, it was so abysmal, and it was a condo, so it got hit twice as hard. Not to mention, it got even worse because the former owner did not disclose that there was a special assessment on the horizon that was going to come our way for $20,000. And when you're very young and you don't have a lot of money, $20,000 is just brutal. It's a fortune. What happened was some unit way across the way that we couldn't even freaking see got termites, and the HOA didn't have the money in the coffers to completely rebuild it. So they just billed everybody, all the other units around there. We all got hit with 20 G's. And if you think that's bad enough, no, it's not bad enough. We lived in what looked like a nice area during the day, and it looked great when we toured the property, but there was these apartments across the street that were literally filled with ex-convicts. We found that later doing our research. This is a place where when people got out of jail, they could go here to sort of get restarted. And those guys terrorized our condo community. They mugged my poor 6-year-old stepson to try to take his cell phone. And then one night I wake up to hear screaming and noises and crashing. So what happened was I jump out of bed and I hear all this noise. Some of these thugs from these apartments across the street had followed my neighbor home. They had some sort of words as he passed them on the street and had big lead pipes, metal pipes, and baseball bats, and they broke into his house, beat him half to death, drug him out in the driveway, severely beat him, destroyed his car, destroyed everything in the house. As I hear this, I see them walking away. I'm like looking out my window, just looking at these guys go away. So I call 911. I identify these guys from the back of a cop car. And unfortunately, this is the way it is sometimes with the police department. There was no follow-up. I was never called to be on the witness stand. Nothing. There seemed to be like absolute zero traction. And here we are living terrified that these guys could come over and do this again with no police protection whatsoever. That all came to a point where we just had to walk away from the house. We didn't have time to do a short sale. We were in fear for our lives. We were thinking of what is the logic of paying $200,000 off for something that is just vaporware. There was no value to it because the home went down in $200,000. So you'd be paying $200,000 on a loss for the next 30 years with interest, which would have probably been more like $400,000. You know what? We're like, fine, I'll take the credit. You can shame me. You can put the scarlet letter on my lapel saying what a loser you are because you didn't pay for your debts all you want. And if we live any longer, we might freaking die. So we just left. We moved with virtually no money in the bank all the way to a different state, to Washington, where we barely got on our feet. So kudos to my ex-wife. She got a job and secured an apartment very quickly while I was still trying to get my graphic design business, freelance business, which had vaporized to absolutely nothing because the whole market tanked when the housing market tanked and we were just barely on life support. Now, for the next 6 years, I spent paying off my debts. I spent working at medial jobs like sign shops and stuff, and didn't really have hardly anything saved. So at this point I was about 46. So I'm getting on in years with no hope of retiring, no hope of a nice financial cushion. And I was so low at some point, I was like, you know what? I just can't do this anymore. I've ruined my life. I've ruined my ex-wife's life. My parents probably think I'm a loser. I'm a terrible father figure for my stepson. I was really just thinking about ending it all. Some of you listening to this may resonate with what I'm saying. The only thing that kept me going was I knew if I took my own life, my mom, who was still alive at the time, would have just been absolutely crushed and devastated beyond all measure. I couldn't do that to her in her golden years. And then I would have left my ex-wife, who I already ruined her life with my stupid financial decisions, another thing to worry about, a dead husband. So I knew I couldn't go backwards. So I thought, how do I go forwards? Because this is unsustainable. I can't live like this. Here's exactly what I did step by step. And all of this laddered up to me becoming where I am now. From that point, financially destitute, emotionally destitute, to where I'm now almost ready to retire 6 years earlier by statistical standards. I had to start with fighting fire with fire. So I had this evil, mean voice in my brain every day telling me, why are you a loser? How could you have done this? How could you have screwed up so bad? Not to mention, those jobs just were not very good jobs. My first couple of jobs, I was lucky to have them. I'm thankful. Thank you to those companies for giving me a paycheck during those times. But they were also kind of treated you with very little respect. You were the bottom of the totem pole. You're kind of dirt. to them as well, and they added compounding to the pressure. So I would go for these long walks when I had spare time. And instead of those walks being filled with my brain torturing myself, calling me out for what the loser I was, I reversed it and I made it a one-way street of positive thinking. So I found everything on YouTube that related to positive thinking, to self-improvement, to personal improvement, to financial improvement. And I was probably going through, when I listened to it on advanced speed, 50 books every few months, because I would go for these 2 or 3 hour long walks and I would just have everything going at warp speed, just like Neo in the Matrix. I know Kung Fu. I just absorbed everything about how to think positively, how to have momentum, how to be productive, how to start saving your money, how to start building a nest egg. What is compound interest? What is 401k? What is all this stuff? That reversed my negative thinking, because I was really stuck for a few years, just no momentum, just spinning my wheels, going nowhere. That was the key. And I'll never forget one thing I heard from all that was Tony Robbins said a phrase: massive action yields massive results. And I realized just ruminating about your problems does really absolutely nothing. You have to take physical, mechanical, material actions that are going to move the needle for you so you can actually gain momentum and go into what you're doing. So number one, I fixed my brain. Now let's get to the massive action part. One of my jobs, although not being a great job, did pay for education. And shockingly enough, I was the only one at a small mom and pop 50 person company that even took advantage of this. So I already had a bachelor's degree, even though I was kind of life imploded. I did have a bachelor's degree. So my next step was master's. So I did this very simple approach. I analyzed the market and I'm like, okay, what pays really good? I need to make about $150,000 a year. 2, what is within the realm of my existing experience? And 3, what is really high in demand right now? I used those 3 categories and I found a program that was perfect for what that was. It was called Human-Centered Design and Engineering, and it's a long term for UX. Now, one thing I did already, but I didn't know at the time, was part of this secret formula is I moved to where the work is. Now, if you're struggling where I was that long ago, you're going to have to bite the bullet on a few things if you're going to want to change your life. You're going to have to move to where the work is, and you're going to have to reinvent your skill set. I did those 2 things. I moved from a very not nice part of California, Sacramento, and I moved to Seattle. Now, the job market was dramatically better in Seattle. So I did the move already. I was kind of forced upon me, but I did it. And the next thing I had to do was reinvent my skill set, because graphic design didn't pay very good. And guess what? If I hung on to graphic design, is there even a such thing as a graphic designer anymore with AI kicking out all the images? I mean, thank God I did it. So at this point, I had moved and I retooled my skill set by going to school and getting this master's degree and becoming a UX designer. And because those 3 criteria that I had, find something that's in demand, find something that pays really good, and find something that I have a background in, because graphic design does help you when you design user interfaces. I was a highly valuable employee, and I wasn't even finished with my master's program before I got snatched up by a tech job. Tripled my salary. Now I was able to kick in what I knew about financial health and actually became kind of obsessed about it. And because I already knew how to live extremely frugally, just because I had no choice but to be frugal because I was broke for so long, I was able to do another tactic that really took things to the moon for me. You got to think about when your money comes in, there's 2 buckets you can put it in. One, you can put it in depreciating assets. What's that? That's things like the shirt I'm wearing, a jacket, a car, a belt, a gadget you bought for the kitchen. Those are all things that once you buy them, good luck reselling them for even pennies of what you paid for them. Most likely they're going to go in the garbage or they're going to go to the Goodwill for donation. The other bucket is appreciating assets. So you may be wondering, how can I buy something that goes up in value? There's actually not a whole lot of things, which in some ways makes it easier. One, you can buy real estate. I choose not to do that because I got burned so bad with my situation and it's complicated and there's a lot of money to get into it. Two is maybe some collectibles or whatever, things that you resell on eBay like art. Three, though, is like stocks. And for me, I was like, okay, this is what is going to work for me. All I got to do is figure out how to get a Robinhood account, find some stocks that I think are going to grow, and swipe right and put some money in there and just sit back and watch. Now it was the catalyst for me to really took me to the next level, to where I am today. Now, if you're a tech person and you're listening to this channel, let's just say you crushed it. You went to school, you did what I did, you got a master's degree, and you got a great job in tech. You went through the grueling process of being interviewed, and now you're at some big company. Day to day, it's stressful. I know it is, and you're just trying to get through it. Maybe you really enjoy it. Odds are probably you kind of enjoy it, but there's a lot of stuff you suck at that you don't like. The other aspect, but you've got good money coming in, okay? Good on you. If you want to just spend that money, bomb around in Teslas, put your kids in private school, vacation, travel all the time, buy a bunch of things, and I know so many people like that, that's fine. But you're really going to be struggling when you're in your 60s and you have no nest egg and you have nothing to give to your kids and you have no parachute if your nice tech company job decides to lay you off because now AI is doing your job, for example. This other part, if you want to do that, if you want to have the success you did with your job and have this nice big fat paycheck, but if you also want to understand how you might be able to retire early, how to maybe have $1 or $2 million in your lifetime before you retire, even more, and by the time you are in your 80s, maybe even have that be $10, $20 million, which is absolutely possible with compound interest. That is the part 90% of people that I know in tech don't understand. And that is what I want to bring to you, my knowledge in that part, as I flesh out this channel. Because a lot of folks in tech have figured out how to make the big bucks, but they're just spending it as fast as they come in and they don't know what to do with their big salary. And even with those big fat paychecks, they are going to be in a really bad spot when they're 60, 65. Okay. Thank you for letting me be authentic and kind of tell my story in an unedited way. I don't have any flashy graphics coming over here. I'm not going to play any music. I just wanted to tell you why I'm here on this channel. And in more videos, I'm going to be helping transition you using my knowledge, what worked for me, from maybe you're struggling horribly financially, it's your really bad spot, to your first 6, 7 figures. And then with that, how are you going to retire early and get rid of the tech burnout job, shed the golden handcuffs, and go on and prosper to a retirement from the tech world? Thank you so much. My name's Jamie. If you like this kind of content, of course, I have to ask, please give me a like, because it really helps the channel and helps serve it up to other people who have the same problems and same struggles we have. I'll see you in the next video.